Frank L. White, widely recognized as the face of the iconic cream of wheat brand, was a prominent chef of his time. His image graced the packaging of the popular cereal for decades, although his identity remained largely anonymous to the public for a significant period. Here's a detailed look at his life and legacy. Frank L. White was born around 1867 in Barbados, West Indies. Not much is documented about his early life or his journey to the United States, but it is known that he emigrated to the U.S. in the late 19th century. By the time he had established himself in America, he had become a professional chef known for his skills in culinary arts. After settling in the U.S., White worked as a chef in several establishments across the Midwest. He was particularly known for his work in hotels and restaurants in Michigan. His reputation as a skilled and professional chef grew steadily during his career, and his culinary skills earned him respect in the communities where he worked. By the early 1900s, White had worked in various restaurants and hotels, primarily in the Midwest, with Michigan being one of the states where he built a reputation as a respected chef. His culinary skills were well known, and he had the opportunity to work in some of the most prestigious kitchens of the time. White's profession as a chef was not an easy one, especially for an African-American man in the post-Reconstruction and Jim Crow eras. While the hospitality industry allowed African-Americans to gain employment, they were often confined to the lower echelons of the industry or stereotyped into certain roles, such as domestic service or manual labor. Frank L. White, however, transcended these barriers by becoming a head chef, a prestigious position that required not only skill but also leadership. Frank L. White's most lasting impact on American culture, however, came not from his culinary achievements, but from his association with cream of wheat, one of the most popular breakfast cereals in the United States. Cream of wheat was created in 1893 by wheat millers in North Dakota as a warm, hearty breakfast cereal made from farina. The cereal quickly became a staple in American households, known for its creamy texture and versatility. As part of its marketing strategy, the creators of cream of wheat sought a recognizable image to serve as the face of their brand. The image they chose was that of a smiling African-American chef. In 1900, Frank L. White was photographed in his chef's uniform, and that image became the one used on cream of wheat packaging. At the time, advertising often used racially stereotyped images of African Americans, particularly in the food industry. It's important to note that White's likeness was initially associated with the name Rastus, a derogatory term used to refer to black men during that period. Rastus was a stock character in American advertising and popular culture, embodying the stereotype of a happy, submissive black man serving white families. Despite the use of the Rastus label, which was a racist caricature, White's image as a professional chef came across as dignified, respected, and knowledgeable. Over time, the caricatured name faded, but White's image continued to grace the packaging for decades, becoming synonymous with cream of wheat. Frank L. White's involvement with the cream of wheat brand highlights the complicated legacy of African American representation in American advertising. On one hand, White's image helped sell a beloved product, and he became a household face for generations of Americans. On the other hand, his image was initially used within the context of racial stereotypes that were prevalent in advertising during the early 20th century. For many years, White's true identity was obscured, and he was known only by the fictional name Rastus. It wasn't until decades later that historians began investigating who the real man behind the cream of wheat chef was. It was eventually discovered that Frank L. White, an accomplished chef, had posed for the photograph, and efforts were made to recognize him properly. Despite this long period of anonymity, Frank L. White's image on the cream of wheat box had a lasting impact. His likeness was seen as a symbol of warmth, hospitality, and trustworthiness, and for many people, the friendly face of cream of wheat was a positive, comforting figure in their daily lives. However, his story also forces us to confront the history of racial representation in advertising. The use of African Americans in food advertising during the early 20th century often reinforced stereotypes of black servitude. Characters like Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben were marketed in ways that echoed the plantation past, suggesting that African Americans were only fit for servile roles. While White's image as a professional chef stood in contrast to some of these other figures, the use of the Rastus name linked him to a broader culture of racial stereotyping. Frank L. White spent the latter part of his life in Leslie, Michigan, where he continued to work as a chef. He was well respected in the community, and those who knew him admired his culinary talent. He passed away on February 15, 1938, at the age of approximately 70, leaving behind a legacy that was largely unrecognized at the time. For many years, his grave in Woodlawn Cemetery in Leslie was unmarked, reflecting the way his contributions had been forgotten or overlooked. It wasn't until 2007 that efforts were made to properly acknowledge his legacy. A headstone was finally placed at his gravesite, recognizing him as the man in the cream of wheat box. This recognition came as part of a broader movement to reclaim the identities and stories of African Americans whose contributions had been hidden or erased. By placing a marker on his grave, the community ensured that Frank L. White would not be forgotten and that future generations would know the real story behind the famous face. Frank L. White's life and legacy are complex, shaped by his undeniable talents as a chef and the racial dynamics of early 20th century America. While he became an iconic figure in American advertising, his true identity remained unknown for many years, and the image associated with his likeness carried with it both positive and negative connotations. Today, White is remembered not only as the face of Cream of Wheat, but also as a skilled chef who made a significant impact in his field. His story is a reminder of the ways in which African American contributions were often overlooked or distorted in history, and it speaks to the broader struggles for recognition and dignity in a society still grappling with its legacy of racial inequality. Frank L. White's image will remain part of the cultural landscape, but it is important to remember the man behind the smile, a talented, hard-working chef who deserves to be recognized for his real-life contributions as well as his role in shaping American popular culture.
Shakira's true, with stories new, I pass our voice in every room.